Good morning and welcome back to 10-Minute English Cafe. It is Saturday, August 15th, 2026, and AP has a story about a Tucson program teaching dogs to avoid venomous snakes.
I paused at dogs and fully stopped at venomous snakes. Please give me the careful version before my imagination starts sprinting.
The program used a snake whose venom glands had been removed. That is unusual, but it belongs to this specific reported setup.
That detail lowers one fear and raises three questions. My fast opinion clearly needs to stay on a short leash today.
A short leash for our opinions is a good idea. Today's keyword is stop and check, spelled STOPANDCHECK.
I like it. It sounds less like a lecture and more like a friend touching your arm before you rush through the wrong door.
Our second story gives that pause a business setting. Cloudflare reported $639.8 million in first quarter 2026 revenue, up 34% year over year.
My eyes go straight to 34%. Then I notice there are probably other lines on that very large receipt.
There are two named sets of operating measures in the release, GAAP and non-GAAP, so we will keep their labels attached.
Good. I am allowed to be impressed, but not allowed to make one bright number wear the whole company as a hat.
Then USDA brings our keyword into the kitchen. Except for infant formula, food product dates generally concern quality rather than safety.
My refrigerator just became less bossy. Still, I know one printed date cannot answer every question on that shelf.
Right, because handling and spoilage still matter. We won't replace one quick rule with another quick rule. So today is about a dog, a company release, and a food label asking us for the same 2-second pause. If you're new here, we turn real news into natural English conversation for listening and shadowing practice. Bring your coffee and your honest reactions. Mine are already moving faster than the headlines. Subscribe if you enjoy these daily chats. Now let us return to Tucson and keep the story inside its real boundaries. I am ready. The dog can stay sensible, and I will try to do the same. AP reported a Tucson program intended to teach dogs to avoid venomous snakes. The unusual part was its use of a snake whose venom glands had been removed.
My whole body says, "Back away, little dog." I want the least exciting ending possible. Everyone turns around and goes home.
That wish for a boring ending fits the program's stated aim. The key action is avoiding the snake, not approaching it.
If I were holding the leash, I would be whispering, "Excellent choice," while walking very quickly in the other direction.
Your imaginary quick exit keeps the focus in the right place. This is a report about teaching avoidance.
I also have mixed feelings about the setup. Part of me is curious, and part of me has both arms firmly crossed.
That discomfort is fair. The report tells us what this Tucson program used. It does not require every listener to feel comfortable with it.
Thank you. Sometimes a surprising method makes people talk as if surprise automatically means approval.
And your reaction shows why stop and check matters. We can notice the unusual detail without turning it into a recommendation.
So I can say, "That is interesting," and still keep my weekend plans completely free of snakes.
Please do. The boundary is clear. This technique should not be presented as a universal veterinary advice.
That boundary feels important because a worried dog owner might hear one story and want an instant answer.
Your worry makes sense. The safest, honest conversation stays with the reported program and its intended goal.
I would probably watch with one eye open and one foot ready to step back. That is my brave setting.
That half step back is very Lisa, and it matches the spirit of avoidance better than a heroic pose would.
That is it. I do not need the dog to become fearless. I need the dog to make a wonderfully boring decision.
wonderfully boring is a good way to receive this news without adding a promise the report never made.
If a friend asked what happened, I would start with the city, the program, and its purpose.
Then you could mention the snake with removed venom glands as the specific feature AP reported.
Short, clear, and no homemade training plan hiding at the end. I can live with that.
That's the balance. Interest in the program, concern for the dogs, and respect for the limit of the report.
The dog wins by leaving danger alone. Honestly, that may be the smartest hero story we hear all day.
Cloudflare's official first quarter 2026 release reported $639.8 million in revenue, up 34% year over year, and also presented GAAP and non-GAAP operating measures.
34% makes my inner party planner reach for confetti. The two kinds of measures make my practical side hide the confetti behind a chair.
I knew you would find both reactions. The revenue growth is notable, and the separate labels still deserve to remain visible.
Can I have one small bag of confetti while I keep reading?
One small bag seems fair. Just do not pour it over the words GAAP and non-GAAP until nobody can see them.
Deal. Those labels feel like two buttons on the same screen. Pressing one does not make the other disappear.
Your screen comparison catches the important point. The release presented both, so our conversation should not blend them into one unnamed measure.
This is where my phone habits get me in trouble. A big percentage flashes and my thumb wants to share it before my brain arrives.
That fast thumb feeling is real. Stop and check means keeping $639.8 million beside revenue and 34% beside year-over-year growth.
Otherwise, I text a friend 34% and receive the completely reasonable reply, 34% of what?
Then you would have to walk back into the conversation carrying the missing word, revenue.
And maybe the missing time period, too. My dramatic little message would suddenly need a proper coat and shoes.
I like that image. The full sentence is still compact. Cloudflare reported those figures for the first quarter of 2026.
That sentence lets the number be impressive without pretending it answers every possible business question.
Yes, the release also included both types of operating measures, and we do not need to invent a verdict about them.
I appreciate that. Two scorecards on a table do not give me permission to scribble my own winner across the top.
Your scorecard instinct is exactly why the names matter. We can report their presence and stay inside the confirmed facts.
This feels useful beyond business news. Large numbers deserve attention, but labels deserve a seat at the table too.
And attention can include curiosity. A careful listener does not have to become cold or unimpressed.
Good, because I am still impressed. I have simply moved the confetti away from the keyboard.
That is excellent progress. We kept the excitement, the period, the revenue figure, and both measure labels together.
My inner party planner and my practical side have signed a temporary peace agreement.
USDA says that, except for infant formula, food product dates generally concern quality rather than safety. The important limit is that handling and spoilage still matter.
My refrigerator has been acting like every date is a tiny judge. Now I learn the judge was answering a different question.
That courtroom image gets to the heart of it. A quality date should not be treated as a complete safety decision.
I admit I want one clear rule when I am staring at a package. One date, one answer, no thinking before breakfast.
Your sleepy wish is understandable, but USDA's guidance does not offer that shortcut. Handling and spoilage stay in the picture.
So the date can matter without becoming a magic permission slip. That is less convenient, but more honest.
Yes, and the word generally matters because the statement is not absolute.
Then infant formula gets its own clearly marked lane. I am not tossing that exception into the back of the cupboard.
I'm glad you kept it visible. USDA specifically separates infant formula from the general statement about food product dates.
This is the first topic today where my imaginary shelf needs traffic signs.
Your shelf may need them, but the conversation only needs clear categories: quality, safety, handling, spoilage, and the stated exception.
My impatient brain still points at the printed date and says, "There, the package has decided for us."
That impulse is exactly what your refrigerator judge joke revealed. The printed date does not remove the other conditions USDA mentions.
I like that you aren't giving me a new opposite rule. Ignore every date would be just another shortcut wearing a different hat.
Right. The guidance says dates generally concern quality. It does not say every dated product is safe to eat.
That one sentence saves me from swinging between panic and overconfidence. Both are exhausting before coffee.
Your two extremes show why careful wording helps. It leaves room for handling and signs of spoilage to matter.
If a roommate asked me about a label, I wouldn't want to sound like the refrigerator police.
You could simply share the distinction USDA makes, then avoid deciding their particular food for them.
That feels friendly and honest. I can explain the idea without turning one conversation into personal safety advice.
And that brings us back to today's phrase. A bold printed date is a perfect moment to stop and check what it actually claims.
My refrigerator is still full of questions, but at least none of the labels are wearing a judge's wig now.
We reached the end with one wonderfully boring dog hero, one carefully contained celebration, and a refrigerator with no tiny judge.
That is a much calmer Saturday than my imagination predicted in the first minute.
In Tucson, AP reported a specific program intended to teach dogs to avoid venomous snakes, using a snake whose venom glands had been removed.
I kept the goal and the unusual setup together without turning either one into advice for every dog.
Cloudflare reported $639.8 million in first quarter 2026 revenue, up 34% year over year, alongside GAAP and non-GAAP operating measures.
I kept one small bag of confetti, but I left every label where I could read it.
USDA said most food product dates concern quality rather than safety, except for infant formula, while handling and spoilage still matter.
And my refrigerator stopped pretending one printed date could do every job.
Which story made you most want to pause before reaching a conclusion, and why? I choose the food date story because a label feels so simple, yet the guidance asks me to notice what it does and does not say. I choose the Tucson story because one unusual detail can attract attention while the limit around that detail remains essential. Tell us your choice in the comments. Any language is welcome and an emoji is fine too. If today's conversation helped your listening, please like, subscribe, and come back tomorrow for another Real News Cafe chat. I will bring coffee and keep my fast thumb away from the share button. Take today's keyword with you. Stop and check before a striking detail becomes a bigger claim than the facts support.
Have a thoughtful Saturday. Stop and check, then let your careful answer move at its own speed.